So I learned in psychology that when somebody complains, you know two things about them. One, they know that there's a better way, that there's a higher standard. They know that there's a higher standard.
Mm-hmm.
And two, they want somebody else to do the work,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
That's what complaining is about, right?
So tell me a little bit about kind of your origin story. I read up on you have a plethora of knowledge of things that I personally really enjoy in terms of like mental health.
Excuse me, teacher, what's a plethora?
An abundance, a large amount of things.
I know, I'm just having fun.
From my audience, who knows if they know what that is, but
yeah, that's right. I mean, got to make things clear.
That's right.
Okay, so where do I start? If you've got 83 years, I can tell you the whole story.
Oh, sure.
I'm 83. I was born in 1942 in Poland when it was part of Germany, because Hitler and Stalin made a non-aggression pact, and my father, who lived in Latvia went to the Soviet Union, and my father loved Russian people and hated communism because they took everything away from everybody.
Sure.
And he had German background, so he was given a farm in Poland. Part of Poland went to Germany. So wow. the farmer whose farm he got ended up working for my father on his own farm.
And that's
and I was born on this stolen farm. And then when I was 2.5 years old, the war ended and we were refugees. So war baby refugees fleeing out of Poland on horse-drawn hay wagons on dirt roads. No military presence, with the commies chasing us in tanks and trucks. And the Allies, well, like that's us, right? The good guys, we like to think of us. They were shooting at us from planes. So they were using refugees as target practice.
Wow.
And my mother had 6 kids with her, 6 years and under. And she decided, it was winter, she decided it was safer to go through the snow-covered fields than to stay on the road. But she couldn't take 6 kids with her, so she had to leave 4 of us behind. So imagine having to make that decision as a mother.
Ugh.
And so then I got to be an orphan for for a little bit.
Wow.
And then her sister found out what had happened, and she found us and reunited us with the family. I grew up very shy, like always like this, you know.
Sure.
You know, when in doubt, duck, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that, right?
You're already in defense mode, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, and I didn't know what I could trust. I never felt safe. Yeah. I remember being hungry. It was a tough childhood. When I was 6, I heard adults arguing, and I had gone through all of this stuff, and I said, "Man, there's got to be a way that human beings can live in harmony." Yeah. And this little cocky voice says, "Well, and I'm going to find out how."
Yeah.
So that's basically been my driver all my life.
Wow.
You know, how do we? So every time, because the start was so bad, and it doesn't get worse than that. So there's always, the question is always, okay, how can I make this better? How can I, you know, and I think of it globally, but I think of it personally as well. So where can I help? What can I do that make things better with whatever talents I have in whatever situation I'm in? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of like, and then I wanted to understand how the world works. So I got into math and physics. Boring. Because it was all theory and there was no well, there was no application. We weren't taught any applications. It was all theoretical and mathematical and like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And then say, okay, so what do I really what do I like better than that? Oh, nature. I love nature. Nature is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And that was always my peace place, was in nature. Right? And so I would sit in, I remember one time my father said, "Were the cows in the meadow?" And I said, "I don't know, but there was this little red spider, and I had been in the meadow. Apparently cows were there. I didn't see them, right? And I was watching this little red spider walk up and down blades of grass. It was like pinhead size, right?
That's so cool.
So I was always looking, I was watching, and then I was doing experiments, banging things together. I broke a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to understand like how things work, right? One of them was an apple and one of those hollow glass Christmas balls, you know, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Well, I didn't know they were hollow, but I wanted to know which one was stronger. So I banged them together, and of course the glass broke.
Naturally.
And we didn't have and we didn't have much money, and they cost money to replace, so that didn't go well for me.
Of course not.
and,
That's
and
great.
I got into lots of problems being a curious kid, that
Yeah.
was always into, and the idea was like I was wanted to know how things work, because when you know how things work, then they become predictable,
Mm,
and then that predictability gives you some security. So I ended up being in science, born
that's great.
scientist, biology, study of life. I wanted to know what life is.
Mm.
Do you know what life? Do you know what life is?
I'd love to know your insight. Yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah. Would you? Yeah, exactly. Would
You're
you
the
like to know what
professional.
life is?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, so we studied biology. Well, you don't study life in biology, even though biology means study of life. We study
Mm,
form and function. We didn't study life. And I thought at one point, I said, at some point we're going to get a beaker that's full of something liquid and shining, and we'd stand around the beaker and say, "Wow, there's life."
yeah,
That's how I wanted to know life. I want to, give me a handle, give me something
yeah.
I can get my hands on,
Something
not
you
just like
point to and
yeah, not so,
tangible and
not yeah, not
yeah,
just some head trip, not some
sure.
philosophy about it. I want the real thing.
Yeah.
So I went into psychology.
Mm,
Psychology, study of soul, is what that means. No soul
mm,
in psychology. We studied thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. So you're learning stuff, but you're not learning what they say they're going to teach you.
mm,
Then I went into medicine. They call it healthcare. I want to know what health is. Because if I know what health is and you're sick, I can turn you around in the direction of health, give you a push, watch you get better.
mm.
But I have to know what direction to push you in. So to do that, I have to know what health is. Well, they don't teach health in medicine. I asked the dean. I came here to study health. What is health? He says, we don't know. We're working on it. And they're not even working on it because they keep looking at disease,
Yeah.
right? It's like saying, well, I want to know what light is. So let me look into the darkness. How long do you have to look into the darkness before you see the light?
Yeah.
Why? Right? So
Yeah.
like everything we've done it's like education is a misrepresentation of reality
Mm.
in every field pretty much,
That's a
right?
great way of putting it. Yeah.
Politics never gives you what's it like to live together in harmony. They're always just into problems. They're always into arguments. When the when the right and the left argue,
Yeah.
they're all human beings. They got to eat, they got to shit, they got to sleep.
Yep.
They got to drink water.
Yeah.
Just basic physical stuff, right? They have all that in
Yeah.
common. They never talk about any of that. Of how do we make that better
No.
for the population? What do they
Yeah, of
talk
course
about?
not. We
They, they, they
yeah.
have one stupid ideology and another stupid ideology, and they fight about the
Right.
ideology. And sometimes they kill each other over the ideology, and it's
Yeah,
all bullshit.
it's because us Americans, we love enemy. We
No,
need
no,
something.
but yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm not picking on America. I live in Canada. We're just as
Sure.
stupid,
Same thing.
and
Yeah.
and the rest of the world in every country, they're all just as stupid,
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
right? And then, of course, we as citizens, instead of holding their feet to the fire by building something better that they have to, what does it say? When the people lead, the leaders will follow,
Yeah.
right? And we
Yeah.
have to really live like that, but we don't. So
Right.
we want them to do it. And then we complain, you
Yeah.
know. So I learned in psychology that when somebody complains, you know two things about them. One, they know that there's a better way, that there's a higher standard. They know that there's a higher standard.
Mhm.
And two, they want somebody else to do the work. Oh,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
That's what complaining is about, right?
Yeah, that's I've always
Anyway,
found in America in particular, I've always found the ironic nature of democracy. A lot of countries obviously are trying to mirror what we're doing, and we're not doing everything right by any means. But
yeah, yeah, no, well,
just
yeah,
living, being born and raised here, and visiting other countries and understanding kind of their way of life and things like that. We always tell ourselves, yeah, we want to be the land of the free, and we want to do whatever we want, and if we want to smoke cigarettes and drink beer and eat fast food, we should be able to do it because why? We're fucking American. And
yeah,
it's this weird like
yeah,
hypnosis that we're under,
yeah, yeah.
this
Hey, where
propaganda.
they go? I'm American. Don't tell me what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
But we're all a little bit like that.
Correct.
And but our democracy. There's a couple of things that I want to say. First of
Sure.
all, the American Constitution is probably the best constitution in the world.
For sure.
but it's still a flawed document.
Of course. Well, because it's almost
Because
300 years old.
because well, it's not because of that,
Yeah.
because every document is flawed.
Right.
All the scriptures are flawed. Every book is flawed. Why? Because they're not reality.
Mm.
They're words about reality, right? And
Right.
the only thing that works is when you're fully present in your space,
Mm.
and then you discover in that space, in the core of it is peace, and within that peace, your life is a flow of unconditional, empowering love through your body that weighs nothing and runs everything, is perfect health, is the inborn leader of every human being on the planet, same leader, accessible to every human being on the planet. And if we lift from that, then we would be practicing love, helping where we can, doing what needs to be done,
Mm.
and maybe thinking about how can we make the biggest splash for good that's possible in the time we have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the American Constitution, I think, is a more thoughtful constitution than any, but they can all be misused and are being like crazy misused,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Because if you make a law, then you have punishment that comes with breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
You've already focused people on the wrong thing,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And if you think about teachers, the best teachers on the planet were the masters, the great masters, Buddha, Krishna, Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they talked about human nature and they only made one law. Their law was love. Love God, love yourself, love your neighbor as yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
And why didn't they make any more laws? Because if you follow that law, you don't need any other laws. And if you don't follow that law, then whatever other laws somebody makes, you break them at your convenience. So why waste your time? Why not just focus people on where you want them to go instead of, oh, you better not do that, and you better not do that either, and you
Yeah.
better not do that either. When you
Yeah.
raise kids like that, they get really crazy.
Yeah.
So
Well,
don't.
yeah.
And then they say, well, if you want to do good parenting, tell them what to do, not tell them
What
what not to do.
what not to do. Yeah. Yeah. And as a dad
Yeah.
myself, I've realized that, to where the word no, don't, all that stuff, take it out of your vocabulary, because you forget sometimes, like, I'm a 40-year-old now, so I'm halfway there, right? I'm getting there for you, Udo. But
Yeah.
as a 40-year-old, I
Yeah.
realized just the past decade that it's fascinating where, as you get older, ironically, you forget where you came from until you have
Mhm.
kids. And now that I have a kid, I'm starting to be more empathetic, putting myself in
Yeah.
their shoes and understand they're new to this
And
world. They
yeah,
don't know anything.
exactly.
You have to,
But
yeah,
you probably are coming up with some of the shit that used to come out of your parents' mouth and
for
saying, "Well,
sure.
oh, shit, I was never going to be like that." But it's in there.
And
It's
here I
like
am. Yeah.
it's baked in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because a
That's right.
kid just absorbs everything. Same
Yeah.
thing happened to me when
Yeah.
I started having kids. I started listening to my father talking to my mother.
Mm.
It's like,
Yeah.
holy shit, I hated that. I was never going to do that, but it was there. It
Yeah.
just it just showed up in this when the situation was the
Right.
same.
Yeah.
And then I had to start thinking, well, what do I actually believe? What do I actually want to do? How do I actually? What is a better way of doing it?
yeah.
And you always got to look at that instead of say, well, I don't like that, so then you beat up the people you don't like,
Yeah.
But then when you win the revolution, you're the same prick that you were when you started it, and
Yeah.
you know what you hate, but you don't know what you love.
Yeah.
And so, like when Mao won the revolution, 70 million Chinese people died in 20 years, right? He won the revolution. He didn't have a clue how to govern a country. And he did really, really stupid things.
Sure.
You don't hear that that's not written in the little red book, but he decided to declare war on sparrows because they ate grains, right? But they also ate insects, and he didn't know that because he was not a biology major like me, right?
Right. Of
so,
course.
so he had 100 million Chinese people standing in the fields with rattles, making noise, because it scared the sparrows. They couldn't land, and they would fly until they dropped dead from exhaustion. And then he
That's
would
crazy.
send trucks around to pick up all these dead sparrows. He had 100 million people doing that all day.
That's
What?
madness.
And then they got all the sparrows because they all dropped dead, right?
Yeah.
And then they trucked them away in big trucks. I mean, I imagine truckloads of sparrows. What? Picture that, truckloads of sparrows, right? And
Yeah.
then what happened is that the sparrows were also eating the insects. Then the insects ate the grains, and they ended up in a famine in China that killed 30 million people, where 30 million people starved to death.
All because you
Right?
couldn't let birds eat bugs. And that's
All
something
because he didn't like sparrows, and he didn't like
crazy.
mice, and he had some other crazy things that he did. So and so the question, I think, and we really, like, as human beings, we're really good at criticizing, and we're really good at finding fault, and we're really good at saying, no, I don't like that, and I don't like him, and those guys should be doing that, and blah blah blah, right?
Sure.
What we actually need to do, because we're in a time of great change, what we need to do as individuals, what does it look like when people live in harmony? What does it look like when a country is actually based on positive goals,
Mm.
rather than crisis invention and then
Right.
crisis management? Right?
Yeah.
So what would that look like? Because in your lifetime, maybe not in mine, but in your lifetime, you will have the occasion to build it. But when that occasion arises, you need to know what you need to do,
That's right.
and
Yeah,
you
we're
have to
not.
figure that, and you
Yeah,
have to figure that out beforehand.
because we're not
So
prepared
this
for
is
that
a
right now.
no,
No.
we're not. No, we're not, because we're just bitching
Right.
and not building, building, not bitching. I mean, bitching, not building.
And I mean, do
Right?
you think this is just going to that point? Do you think it's more? Is there intention behind that? Similar to how I'd love to get your opinion on the education system, because when that first started, because we're starting to look at, we homeschool now, but we're
Mm-hmm.
starting to look at, before that we looked at some other solutions, and things haven't changed in a half a century. And it's almost like
Yeah.
there's people smarter that could easily do it. This could easily get funded, whether privately or publicly, or people could vote on it.
Yeah.
There's other things we can do, but it seems like with that and a lot of other things when it comes to politics, it's things aren't getting changed. And is that intentional for profit? Is that because of laziness? What do you think? What's your mindset behind all those
Well,
things you were talking about?
you could say it's both. You could
Mm,
say we have a momentum as a culture, as a group. We have a momentum. The planet has a momentum, a
sure.
human endeavors and momentum, right?
Right.
And we're still in a place where like, if you listen to Tony Robbins, if you ever listen to him, right, he
Sure.
says 5% of the population is drawn by a vision. He doesn't say it this way, but 5% of the population is drawn by a vision. Like, they're excited about something, they see a possibility. Oh my God, and so they chase the carrot.
Yeah.
95% of the population is driven by fear or running from a stick,
How about
right?
that?
Okay, so if I want to control a population, I invent a crisis,
Right.
okay? And it could be political, it could be health-wise. Health is a good one because health is an issue for everybody.
Yeah.
And then I create a crisis, and then I become the savior
Of that
for
crisis.
that crisis.
Yeah.
So that's time-tested politics. That goes all the way back to at least the Roman Empire,
Yeah.
right? Politicians have always done that. The
We've
question,
gotten
I
we've
think,
gotten good at that. Humanity.
we're good at it.
We're
Oh,
good at that
we're
one.
good at it.
We're
Yeah,
good
yeah,
at
we're good at that. It's stupid, but we're good at
Yeah.
it, right? So yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
Um, so the question is always, what is the intent? And the intent of the people who have control
Mm,
or want control
mm,
is to create narratives that support their control,
right.
right? And you
Yeah.
have those narratives in religion, and you have those narratives in politics, and you have those narratives in the kind of government you have. Like, what you have in the US is not democracy. It was supposed to be a republic where the government's job was to protect the freedom of the individual. That's why it's a good. That's why it's a good. Um,
Constitution.
that's why it's such a good paper, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have a democracy, And democracies are not democracies. They're dictatorships of the majority. So in
It's the
Canada, for instance, we have
illusion of
well, no,
democracy.
no. It's more concrete than that.
Mm,
We have three parties. One is socialist, one is like your Republicans, and the other one is in the middle. We call them liberals.
right,
Like your liberals are more socialist. Anyway, you have two. We have three, right?
right.
So the winning party gets 39% of the popular vote. So they form the government because the other two are lower than that, right? So they win, they form the government. The representatives are kind of like the popular vote in percentage,
Mm,
but the money all goes to the winner. See, even though
yeah,
25% voted for socialist programs, the socialists get no money to put their programs into effect. If it was democratic, they would be splitting the budget. 39% for the winner, 25% for the socialist, whatever was their percentage of the vote, because then they can put their programs into practice, and people can see what they're going to get from them.
yeah,
But this way, the winner takes all. The guys who didn't get the most votes get nothing. So you have no idea whether they're
right.
just got head trips or if they're actually capable of creating something. So that's why I say your democracy and ours in Canada too is a dictatorship of the majority, right? Because
Yeah,
the minorities all get disenfranchised as far as the budget, as far as the tax money that you pay are
sure.
concerned.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I think sometimes again, when I talk about intention, it seems when you 50,000 foot view and you take a look at all this stuff, and you look
yeah,
at, I could just speak in America here, the pressure that it takes, or excuse me, the pressure that it goes on top of a human here in America
yeah,
to deal with everything from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, financially, emotionally, physically. Now you loop in social media, like all this stuff. It seems so perfectly designed to not give us enough bandwidth to worry about important stuff. It's
okay.
we're so driven to all these little things that we've been
Well,
told is important, right?
they're distractions. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
but and we have more distractions than we've ever had. But
Ever.
the truth is, you only need one distraction to get to roll off your position.
What's that?
Right? So we're not any distraction.
Yeah.
One
Oh,
distract. So it's not like we're more distracted than we were before. We're distracted or we're not distracted.
right.
If you have one distraction and you follow the distraction, you're off.
That's right.
If you have a million distractions, you're off. But you're not more off now than they were then.
Yeah.
Just more options. And I think the mistake that we all make, because we're always looking for who's causing the problem, well, actually, you're causing the problem. I'm causing the problem. And the way we do that is we have narratives. We have so democracy is a kind of narrative. The
Hmm.
government story is a narrative. The medical profession learns a narrative. The
Right.
political professions go with narratives, and we follow different narratives. And
Right.
my narrative may be different from yours, and then we'll fight about the narrative.
Right.
And the truth is that the only thing that has ever worked and that will ever work is if you and I independently, not together, right, as individuals, discover, get out of our head
Hmm.
and get out of our preoccupation with everything that's going around us, because almost none of it is threatening our survival right now,
Right.
right? The whole thing of going out and making sure you monitor your environment as it changes, because you got to figure out, is this friend to approach or is this foe to fight or run from, or is this
Yeah.
irrelevant and safe? I can safely ignore it, right? So we need to get out of that and this, which is the cooking pot for all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we need to go deeper into the experience of our own existence, in which we find a love that casts out all fear, in which we find the truth that will make us free, in which we find a peace that passes understanding. Those are biological attributes of human beings. And that we take time every day to go into that space that is actually ourselves undistracted,
Mm.
and then begin to live into the world from that peace, from that love, from the inspiration that comes out of that, and to build by doing what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Not because the government said so, but because it's true to life.
And it's what's
And
best
that's,
for
I
us.
think, yeah, it's true to life. And whatever you do that's true to life is supportive and encouraging and protective of life.
Yeah.
Right. And we're not doing that.
Right.
We're following the leader. The leader's outside, but the leader, actually, the real leader is life inside of us.
Yeah.
So you have a question about how to live, you need to ask life within you, not some expert who probably has an agenda, is, if nothing else, is rifling your wallet
Right.
to give you that, and is probably half baked in his expertise anyway.
Yeah. Because we're all just
Right?
trying to figure this
So,
thing out anyway. We're
yeah,
all.
so we need to be independent, not right, not left, independent, dependent of what's within us, because that's where our power is, that's where our wholeness is, that's where our health lives, that's where everything about human beings that is beautiful and holy lives inside of you.
And have
And
you
imagine
always?
imagine 8 billion people doing that
Yeah. Perfect
as
world, right?
individuals. Yeah, there wouldn't be any wars.
Yeah.
We'd be, the Ukrainians and Russians would sit down together. What the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
Right? And would say, okay, listen, you got kids, I got kids. What can we do together to make their life work?
Yeah.
What can we do to teach them values of respect
Yeah.
and appreciation and acceptance and love and peace?
Yeah.
What can we do? Okay. And then that has to come, and then you as an individual have to bring that to expression out of your own personal experience of making that your mission.
Right. And have you always had this mentality? Was there something that flipped the switch? Was it the snowstorm that you were left in when you were 2? Like what made you kind of have this mentality?
I didn't get left in a snowstorm. I got left with a stranger.
With a stranger.
But anyway, yeah.
Sorry.
No, I would say I don't think war is a good idea, but I have to say, looking back, it wasn't fun then, but I got to say it was a gift to me because it got me thinking about stuff really early. Unusual, because if your life is very easy, you tend to just drift, right?
Right.
So it got me focused. And often the worst experiences we have become our best breakthroughs. And that's certainly true for me, pesticide poisoning and my marriage breaking up and the war. And I got kicked in the head by a horse one time. And, I learned a couple of things from that too.
Wow.
Right. But so,
lots of life
but
lessons
I
there.
think, yeah. And I deserved to get kicked in the head because I was spitting at it because I didn't like it.
Oh, there you go.
It's a long story about like childhood understood justice.
Oh my God.
No. And I was trying to figure it out. That's why I went into science. That's why I went into all those things. And I didn't find it there. So I left university and I was in science, and we were pretty straight in the arts faculties. They were messing with psychedelics in the 60s, right? And I was one of the few people in science who got interested in that. And I asked one of these people from the arts department, I said, what is it like? What is LSD like? And he looked at me like with really kind eyes, and he said, well, if you haven't taken it, I can't explain it to you. And if you have taken it, I don't need to explain it to you. And I thought, what a crazy answer, right?
Yeah.
So I had some friends that ended up doing an LSD experience,
Yeah.
and I was rolling on the floor laughing, and the tears were running down my cheeks. And I was listening to Mozart and laughing in time with Mozart's music. I mean, it was really, it was really
Wow.
crazy, right?
That's cool.
And the thing that made me laugh was that, oh my God, all this stuff that I've been so studiously looking for in the world is all already within me.
Mm. Mm.
And I was actually what I was looking for in all of my styles. I was looking for myself, right? When you're lonely, you know what that is? When you feel lonely,
Mm.
you're looking for connection. Then you look for a connection on the outside, but your loneliness is the result of your disconnection from the inside.
Depression.
Oh, so well, it could be depression, it could be
Yeah.
anxiety, it could be fear, it could be confusion, it could be ennui, what they call ennui, right? Could
Mm-hmm.
be, and the reason why is because in your mother's womb, there's nothing to do, there's no place to go, everything's taken care of, and it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
So where is your focus when you're in the womb? You have no language, you have no religion, you have no culture, you don't belong to a nation, you don't have a name, there are no words, right? When you need to pee, you just pee in the womb, right?
Yeah.
So you no bathroom breaks, right?
Yeah.
You don't know there's a mother around you because you're in a tank, right? And you're sort of floating in a tank. It's kind of like a sensory deprivation tank, right?
Yeah.
You don't know there's a world around your mother that you're going to have to get to know. So you're hanging out. So where's your focus? At rest, inside, in its source, within you, in your life, and deeper than that, in pure awareness.
Mm.
And that should be the most boring thing that ever happens to a person, to spend 9 months in confinement, right?
All right.
With nothing to do and nothing to see, right? I mean, you'd go crazy. You say, oh my God, I couldn't do that for 9 months. But the kid's not bored.
Yeah.
They're not bored. It's actually in bliss because it's present inside its own deeper nature because it's had no chance to leave that, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you see these pictures of fetuses and a little smile goes on their face and they're just floating
Yeah.
around, like, right? So then you get born, everything changes.
Yeah.
Now you got to get to know the world, lots of changes in the world. So your focus is drawn out through your senses into attracted to change in the outside world
Yeah.
because you got to learn to assess what it is, friend, foe, or irrelevant. And as your focus goes out, you become more and more present outside and more absent inside. When in your mother's womb, you were fully present inside and not at all present outside. So shift of focus is what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And you get disconnected from yourself and what I just call loneliness or heartache or yearning or restlessness or emptiness or hope, sorrow, sadness, grief,
Yeah.
all of those feelings that you feel in your chest that are kind of like you don't like them that much. They're like uncomfortable, uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
All of those feelings are the result, are caused by, not by somebody dumping you, or not because you don't have a girlfriend, or not because, or a boyfriend, or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Not because any of that out there. It's because of your disconnection from yourself. And when I
Yeah.
say I was looking for myself, that's what I was looking for, although I didn't know it because nobody told me. And so
Yeah.
I was tried. So I didn't find it in biology, and I didn't find it in medicine, and I didn't find it in psychology. I found a glimpse of it in that LSD trip,
Wow.
and and then I did psychedelics for a couple of years, a few times.
Just
They can be,
just mushrooms, acid, what?
yeah,
Yeah.
shrooms, acid.
Sure.
I did everything that was available. Ayahuasca was not available in those days, so I don't have any experience of that. And
Have you
there's
ever
some stuff.
have you ever done ayahuasca or plan to?
No. I
No.
have
Okay.
never done it because it wasn't happening then, and now I don't need it.
Now you're
I'm
good.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you'll see why I'm good. Okay.
Yeah, you
So
got it.
so I tried all the ones that were available at the time,
Hmm.
and some of them were good, and some of them I didn't like. But the psychedelics, the mushrooms, and the cactus, and LSD, uh, morning glories. There's a certain kind of morning glory that also has psychedelics in it, and so I did that. They can be hard on your body. So one day I decided I only get one body. I got to look after it. I'm not doing any psychedelics for 2 years.
Mm,
Give my chance a body to recover. And I wasn't really wrecked, but I was noticing.
sure.
And so, and in that time, but that didn't make my question about who am I, what am I here for, that didn't
Right.
make that question go away. So I said, okay, what's next? If I'm not going to do psychedelics, so what am I going to do? And I came to the conclusion that if I were to model myself after someone, because my parents were not my model, they were shell shocked from the war,
Hmm.
and my teachers were not my models because some of them were really crazy. And I thought the scientists, the geneticists, I ended up in biochemistry and genetics. I thought they were my tribe. Then I watched them pinch each other's wives' asses at 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 conventions, and I said, okay, well, this is not my tribe,
Right.
right? I'm looking for something a little more lofty than that,
Yes.
right? And so I came to the conclusion that the people who I most would want to model myself after were the masters,
Mm.
and specifically because I'm from a Christian culture.
Hmm.
I got the red letter edition. You know what the red letter edition is?
No.
It's a Bible. It's a Bible in which everything Jesus says
Hmm.
is in red ink, printed in red ink, and all the rest of the Bible is in black ink. Because I said, okay, well, if I'm going to model myself after Jesus, how do I do that? I'm 2,000 years late to the party,
Yeah.
you know? So how do I get a handle on what was it? And so my question became, I want to know what he felt that made him live like he did, talk like he did, do what he did. I want to have that feeling because some of what you read in some of the scriptures is like poetic. And
Sure.
you can't write poetry if you're not feeling something.
Right.
So I'm going after the feeling. It's like I was very it was I was surprisingly grounded in that question, right? So
Mm.
then the question is, well, how do I get to feel that? Well, I'm going to take all some of the red things he said.
Hmm.
I'm going to put him to the test and see if doing what he did will get me feeling what he felt,
Mm.
right? So it's like an experiment,
Makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I started putting it to the test, and I had some really magical experiences. And I did things that if what he said wasn't true, it would have worked out badly for me. So I
Mm.
took some risks, right? But I had magical experiences.
Cool.
And then so seemed like I was on a pretty good track there.
Yeah.
And then this group of Christians came up to Vancouver, where I was living at the time in Canada, up the coast from California, and they called themselves the Jesus People's Army. And that should have been a warning to me because army is not a good word in
Right.
in my experience, right?
Not the best name
Um,
for a Christian group.
no,
Right.
but I missed the cue because I got it in my head that I thought, oh well, we must be all doing what I'm trying to do, trying to figure it out, trying to come up with meaning, and we're all going to get together and we're all going to share our adventure stories in our search,
Hmm.
and we're all going to leave the evening enriched, right? Because when you hear people's stories from their own experience, it's enriching.
Love that.
So
Yeah.
I went to the coffee house, sat down at a table, and immediately this big guy swooped in next to me. That should have been my second warning. But I missed that cue too because I was so fixed in my head about what was going to happen there.
Right.
It totally didn't happen.
You were optimistic.
I was more than optimistic. I was mindset set to a glorious picture,
Great.
right?
That's awesome. Yeah.
So so he sat down beside me, and I looked him in the eyes. I didn't introduce myself. I just said to him, "It must be possible to see God and live," because there were stories in the Old Testament of people who saw God and lived, and we were
Mhm.
always told, if you see God, if you look at God, He kills you. That's what we were told as kids,
Yeah.
right? And he loves you unconditionally. He built a whole world for you to live in. Keeps you breathing and your heart beating when you're sleeping.
Hmm.
But if you look at him, he kills you. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I said that, and I thought that would be the beginning of a beautiful conversation, deep conversation, but important, meaning stuff.
Yeah.
So, well, that's not what happened. He jumped out of his chair and he's bouncing around the room with his arms flying around his head, screaming, "You're from the devil! You're from the Antichrist! Get out!" I'm
That'll
27.
that'll
I'm a
wake you
little
up a little
kid.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a little kid. I'm 27. I go slinking out of there. I'm standing on the sidewalk and say, "Shit, I haven't seen God. Maybe I shouldn't have been asked. Maybe I should not be asking those questions." Because we were
Right.
also told as kids, there's certain questions you're not supposed to ask. And they
Right.
wouldn't tell us what those questions were, because if they had told us what they were, knowing me, I would have asked those questions.
Right.
Right? So they didn't tell us those questions. So I said, okay, well, maybe I asked a question I'm not supposed to ask. And I got really desperate. I
Mm.
got really confused. And confusion, desperation is a good thing because it leads to sincerity. And
Mm.
I ended up on the sidewalk, basically it's like, I really want to know. I just really want to know. Right.
Yeah.
And then I decided I would hitchhike into nature to clear my head, because that's what I used to do when my head got fried in the city by all the crazy stuff going on in the 60s, right?
Yep.
Ended up on a beach. It's called Long Beach, but it's not the California one. It's the British Columbia, Vancouver Island one. Completely deserted. Me, water, logs, and water, right?
Cool.
And I said, okay, I'm going to clear my head here. It's going to hang out here for the weekend. And somebody had draped plastic over some logs and made a little dwelling. You couldn't walk into it. You had to crawl in it, but it protected you from seagulls dumping on you or rain
Right.
falling on you and stuff. And so I crawled in there and I fell asleep. And in the middle of the night, I woke bolt upright from dead asleep, literally. Boom. And there was this being made of light. No label, no words.
Wow.
Just a presence. And that presence embodied a message. And I could put words to the message, although the being never said anything. We had no conversation. It was just there. And the words that came to me, that being embodied, was, I am come not to judge, but to love. I am come not to judge, but to love. Do you know a better summation of the message of the masters? I don't.
No, that's beautiful. What psychedelics were you on?
Nothing.
Just kidding.
Nothing.
Just kidding.
Yeah, yeah. No. It's a good question.
That's wild. Yeah.
No, the psychedelic I was on was desperation.
The most powerful one.
Right? Desperation, yeah. and the sincerity is the better psychedelic that comes out of that.
Wow. And how do you think you got to that state? Was it the combination of that and the desperation that maybe?
Well, I was on a track. I was trying to find out, right? I mean, that was what I dedicated my time to. What did Jesus feel that made him speak like he did, talk like he did, feel like he did?
Yeah.
Right? And there it was.
And that's
and then the message, and that was the message. Or the message was, I am come not to judge, but to love. Well, you can't love if you're not feeling love, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so and then I said, okay, there's my standard.
Right.
All of my confusion evaporated instantly. I have never had a question about what was the message of the master. And and that very short experience, I don't know how long it was, that very short experience reset my entire personality.
And that was when you were 27, right?
By that time, I was 28. Yeah.
28, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then I started thinking about it, and it was like, okay, well, who was that? So was that Christ? Because I was on that kind of a trip, right?
Yeah.
Was that soul? Was that spirit? Was that life?
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I said, you know what? Those are just 4 different names for the same thing.
Mm.
Oh, so it was all of those, right?
Yeah.
And then if you then do the science on it, what is your life? Well, your life is a solar of a fraction of solar energy, right? Because sunlight runs the earth, runs nature, right?
Yeah.
Runs all living things. So it's filtered through 93 million miles, then through the atmosphere, then filtered into plants, and it activates electrons that then bond between atoms to make molecules. And that solar energy is stored in those bonds. You eat them as food. In your cells, those bonds get broken, the energy is released. Now you call it life. So we are all solar energy gadgets, right? And that solar energy is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient in your body, weighs nothing, runs everything. Its nature is a flow of unconditional, empowering love through your body that runs the thing. And when it separates from your body's done, right?
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about all of that. That just came out of that one experience.
Wow.
And I still cook on it. And, what I understand now about what biology didn't teach and psychology didn't teach and what health is, oh yeah, by the way, that solar energy fraction is also perfect health. Never gets sick, never dies. So when you say, oh, I'm sick, you're actually misrepresenting this situation because you are life and life never gets sick. So you could say, I'm not sick, but my body is, right? That would be
Yeah.
more true, right?
More
And if
accurate.
you could get your mind out of the way of interfering in life's flow through your body,
Yeah.
then you would not be using your mind to make yourself sick, or to
Yeah.
make your body sick, right?
Yeah.
Because life never gets sick, right?
And
So then I
and
started tripping.
I was gonna say, I mean, to that point when it comes to, health and wellness and well-being mentally, it sounds like, this is why I'm assuming you haven't done ayahuasca, is you already got your answer, which is great, which is good to hear.
Yeah. This is
But
yeah.
in terms of like your physical space, how we can actually live long. I mean, you're 83, you don't seem 83. Obviously it has to do something with, do you wake up every morning and do some protocols like grounding and breath work, and like what are you doing to kind of
Yeah.
keep your
Well, so
mind
yeah,
in
you're
this
you're
state?
you're just a little faster than I am. So what
Oh,
what happened is I was feasting on this experience I had.
yeah,
Like it put everything in place for me. And but then it became a memory. And memories, they become dimmer and dimmer with time.
sure.
And there was a point I said, "Damn it. I want to stay in this experience. I want to live in this experience because this is such a beautiful experience."
Yeah,
And that question took me to somebody I was 30 by this time, who was 14. And I inadvertently ran into this guy, this like cosmic interferences or whatever, and he gave two talks, about an hour each. I remember one sentence: "The peace you search for in the world is within you, and I can reveal you that peace." And this guy's 14, so I'm saying, yeah, I doubt it. What's a
yeah,
14-year-old going to teach me? I'm 30. I've been around. I know
right,
stuff, right? You
yeah,
know. And then I said, okay, well, I don't think he can, but just in case he can, I am interested in peace because I'm come out of a war, so peace has been a preoccupation.
right,
So I will check him out, and if he can, I don't want to miss it. And if he can't, I'll just keep looking.
hmm,
And he taught me a method to bring, and the idea is you want to leave the outside. You want to walk from your thoughts. You want to bring your focus into the space your body occupies, and look around and listen in and feel what's there, what's in the space your body occupies. And I'm not talking about guts and lungs and liver. I'm talking about energy awareness, right?
right,
So become aware inside. And the
mm,
idea is you want to take a quiet place where it's safe, so you're not distracted, so you're not dealing with survival issues, and you want to then become a student of the science of observing your own nature, right? Now,
yeah,
how many people do that, right? We observe stuff and we do science, and yeah, what is science? Science is about observation, and the
yeah,
best way to do observation is not to have a foregone conclusion in your head, but just to be in a calm place and just see what occurs. Well,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you want to do that with your own with your own existence when that's actually the only thing you have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's been so long in our society, I feel like, because we're always so like driven by innovation and we I don't know what it is personally, but I could speak from experience where you alluded to earlier where you have these rough experiences in life, and I had a few of those the last few years, and it made me question everything, and my perception changed with everything, and
Yeah,
gratitude and empathy and like all these things that I kind of forgot about. Like I knew they existed, but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
when you get to a certain age, whatever the age is, 20, 30, 40, and you've had all this experience, you
yeah.
forget about these little things that we're talking about. And because you're worried about your mortgage, you're worried about what's on Netflix, you're worried about all this shit that doesn't really matter. And you forget sometimes that sitting in silence is the only way that you can get peace.
Well, it's where you discover
Yeah.
how rich you are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So and so basically, when when I wake up, I make a joke of it. I say, when I wake up, I always want to check in to see if I'm still there, because if I'm not there anymore, there's no point in getting up,
Mm,
right?
right.
But so what I do is I'm in bed and I do this stillness practice, because what happens is when I do that, I get more and more. The more you practice, the deeper you go,
Mm,
more beautiful it gets. I've never seen the bottom of it. But when I go there first, then basically that's how I start my day. I start my day with peace, with love, and with inspiration. Then I get up and do my routines and do the things I need to do. I'm more efficient because I'm more grounded. I'm not tripping in my head and tripping over my own thoughts,
right.
right? So the day goes better. So I do that every day. I've been doing it for 53 years.
Wow.
And it turned out this kid who I thought couldn't possibly help me showed me a method that absolutely works, right? And so, and then, so after I learned that, I was just starting to do that. And then I got married and had 3 kids, and my marriage broke up,
Mm,
and I wanted to kill. So I took I was very upset. I was not very deep into my piece. So I got pulled out of it big time, right?
yeah.
And and so I took a job as a pesticide sprayer because I wanted to kill something. And 3 years later, I got poisoned by the pesticides I sprayed, and
Wow.
went to the doctor and said, I went to the doctor and said, "What do you have for pesticide poisoning?" She said, "Nothing. They don't have anything. So we can spray them all over the world, but we don't have anything to fix the problems they cause. And if it kills the grass, the chemistry of grass has a lot of similarity to chemistry of human being. So if it
Yeah.
kills the grass, it probably hurt you too,
Yeah.
right? Same if it kills the insects. The chemistry is pretty similar. If it kills an insect, it probably will not make you feel better,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, now now I'm on my own. My health is really my responsibility.
Yeah.
Really came home to me, right?
Yeah.
And I had the background in biochemistry and genetics. I hadn't studied nutrition, but I decided to use the background to look for uh, research on health and nutrition, disease and nutrition.
Mm,
And the idea is your body is always turning over. Like if you and I get together at this hour next year,
hmm
98% of the atoms in your body will have been removed and replaced. So you're going to be a completely different person almost, except you probably still have all the same crazy ideas you have now. So your whole body gets rebuilt under you without affecting any of your trips. It's like,
wow.
whoa. And me, my body will be 90% different, and my craziness will have been preserved from the change, right? So, and if your body turns over 98% in 1 year, then if you raise your standard of
Mm,
food intake, food, water, air, because that's what your body's made of by nature, right? If you raise your standard, then in 1 year, you can have rebuilt 98% of your body to a higher standard. That's called healing. That's why healing is possible, because your body is always turning over. So you make better input, you get better output. And it takes
mm,
time, right?
sure.
So, and then I got into oils, fats and oils, because that was the most confusing area. Because they minerals, that was good. 18 minerals are essential, 13 vitamins, 9
Yeah.
essential amino acids, 2 essential fatty acids, right? They're essential, and essential means you can't make them in your body. You got to have them. They got to come in from outside. If you don't get enough, you can't stay healthy. Your health will go down. If you don't get enough long enough, you die. But if you bring them back in adequate quantities before you die, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed and you get your health back. Because life knows how to make a body that works, provided you take responsibility for bringing in the building blocks it needs to do it.
Yeah.
And then oils were confusing because they said, I read a study, omega-6 is an essential nutrient, like I just described. And the next study said omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. That's like that God story, right? God loves you, but don't look at him or he'll kill you. And so how can that be? I have to take it so I can get cancer and die?
Yeah.
So then said, okay, I must be missing something. And then I looked deeper and looked at how much damage is done to oils by industry processing and then by food preparation. And they are the essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6, are the most sensitive of all of our nutrients. They're easily damaged by light, oxygen, and heat. They need the most care, and we give them the least care. We throw them in a frying pan, turn them into smoke. Well, when you turn oil into smoke, you changed the molecules. And smoke is carcinogenic. In fact, cooks who spend 8 hours a day in front of the frying pan have 4 times more lung cancer than normal people who spend 2 hours in front of the frying pan every day.
Wow.
4 times more, 400% more. So we're not talking about 15%. We're talking 400%. And so,
because we're talking a lot about seed oils and things like that. Are we talking sunflower?
Yeah.
Grapeseed, like what oils?
Yeah, right now the big deal is everybody's saying don't use seed oils, don't use omega-6s.
Right.
It's complete garbage. They're misleading you. Omega-6s are essential.
Yeah.
But if they're damaged, they become toxic. So they're blaming the oils for what should be blamed on the toxicity produced when industry makes them and when we wreck them in the frying pan. Okay? So if they said stop frying and get your oils made with health in mind, or hold industry's feet to the fire to make them without damage, because that can be done.
Yeah.
That would be appropriate. What they're saying, don't use them, is bad information. And we figured that out. I figured that out 45 years ago. And then what happened was I found out omega-3 is essential. I got poisoned in 1980. 1981, as it was established that omega-3 is essential. And they said 99% of the population doesn't get enough for optimum health. Oh my God. There's a market, right?
Yeah.
99%, right? And they're
field
5
day
times
with marketing
more.
Companies.
What's that?
It's a field day for marketing companies. That's perfect.
100%. If they want to do the work, if they want to make them with health in mind, right? Yeah. And they're 5 times more sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, heat than omega-6s, so they're way worse, harder to work with.
Wow.
And I said, okay, if we can make omega-3s made with health in mind and bring them back into the population, oh my God, we could help almost everybody. And I got so stoked.
Yeah.
And then so I ended up making flax seed oil, which is the richest source of omega-6. I built a method for making oils with health in mind. It has to be very, very tight, so no light, oxygen, and high temperature can wreck the oil. Goes into glass because plastic leaches into oil quicker than into water. Got to be organic because you don't want pesticides in the oil, right? And then we started making 1986. We started making flax seed oil. So I'm the guy who started the flax seed oil.
Wow.
The whole idea of making oils with health in mind, and I'm in the Canadian Health Food Association Hall of Fame for starting the industry of making oils with health in mind. And I came out of getting poisoned, right?
Yeah. And that's something.
And then the other thing...
Meanwhile, other companies ignore that completely, and they just want to turn a profit.
None of the people who talk about not using seed oils or omega-6 has ever talked to me. And I'm not hiding. I'm not hiding. I've done 10,000 presentations, live presentations on media, on media, and in 40 countries. So it's not like I'm not around. And I have a book called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, that sold probably about 300,000 copies. So it's not like they don't know about that.
They
They
know.
don't know about me.
They know.
Really, I mean, I find it amusing.
Yeah.
If it didn't hurt people, it'd be really amusing.
Yeah.
But it hurts people because they're getting the wrong information. Now, the problem that they don't talk about is when the industry makes oils, they're doing it for shelf life, not for health.
Right.
So that way you get economies of scale. You can make it where you live and you can sell it where I live, or you can live it and sell it in Tokyo and Berlin and
Sure.
Addis Ababa or whatever, wherever, global, right?
Yeah.
So you
And
get
that's
a big market.
that's with most things, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
bread,
You want to,
yeah, everything's shelf stable. Yeah.
yeah, and you want shelf stable because then you have big markets, and
Sure.
so there's this. So that's cool from a money point of view. Well, in order to do that, they have to treat it with sodium hydroxide, which is a very corrosive base, to take out some things out of the oil that makes the oil spoil. Then they treat it with phosphoric acid, which is a very corrosive acid, to remove more stuff. Then they put bleaching clays in to take the color molecules out because they absorb light, and then the light then damages the oil. And then the oil is rancid and smells bad. Then they have to heat the oil to frying temperature for about 30 minutes to blow off the bad tasting, bad smelling, rancid molecules. And when that's done, you have a colorless, odorless, tasteless oil. It's got pesticides in it. It's in plastic. It's not refrigerated. And that's what most people use in their daily food preps, right? So I asked the company, why do you do that? You know it does damage. Yeah, about 1% of the molecules in the oil are damaged, half to 1%, depending on what the ingredients in the oil are, right? So I called them and I said, why do you do that when you know it does damage? Because I got that out of their journal. And he said, well, one of the reasons we do it is we can get rid of half of the pesticides in the oil. And I didn't even know at that point there were pesticides in oils, right? Because when I studied fats at university, they never talked about any of that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I inside I'm going, oh shit, pesticides in oils.
Yeah.
But I didn't say it because I'd been poisoned by pesticides. So that was like my personal deal, right? I said to him, well, why don't you start with organically grown seeds? Then you don't have a pesticide poisoning problem that you need to clean up.
Yeah.
And there was this long silence at the other end of the phone. And I waited. I don't know, it might have only been 2 seconds, but it seemed like a really long time, right? And then he came back and he was like really angry. He says, what the hell is your problem? The oil's only 1% damage, just 99% good. And if you got 99% on an exam, you'd be damn happy, wouldn't you? No, I'm thinking, wow, okay, maybe it's 1%. Maybe I'm overreacting. So I decided to do the math. There's a saying, when in doubt, do the math, right?
Right.
So I decided if I have a tablespoon of oil that is 1% damaged by the industry doing that process, how many damaged molecules will be in that oil? And I want you to guess because you have no basis for making that guess, and neither do any of the people who listen to you.
Yeah.
And you'll see why this is a good exercise.
I mean,
so give me a number.
100,000.
Okay, 100,000 has five zeros, right?
Right.
Okay, the actual number is a 6 followed by 19 zeros. So 19 minus 5 is 14, right?
Yeah.
12 is a trillion. So you're talking about 600. Your estimate is 600 trillion times too low. In other words, when you use those oils, you get 600 trillion times more damage done to you than you think.
That's wild.
Now, I've asked this question hundreds of times in different talks. And unless people have heard it and remember the number, they're always at least 1 billion times too low in their estimate. And then you have to say, okay, but you're not taking 1 tablespoon, you're taking 2 to 4 a day. And you got pesticides, and you got plastic in there. And you fry it, so you got to multiply that number by another 5 times, because when you fry, light, oxygen, and heat damage the oil all at the same time. And then you do that for 30 years. So you got to multiply that number by about 11,000, the number of days in 30 years, to find out how many damaged molecules you've deliberately put into your body, not knowing how much, and then what happens with these molecules? Well, they didn't exist in nature. So life never made a program to break them down. So they go
Yeah.
in your body, they go into a space that is supposed to be occupied by a natural molecule. They're unnatural, so they don't quite fit in it, so they interfere with what's supposed to be going on in that space. And when you do that in enough cells, by the way, 60 quintillion, which is the number of damaged molecules in a tablespoon, that's more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells in one tablespoon. Right? And
Wow.
is that gonna make a difference to how well your cells function? Well,
It's not good.
It can't but.
Yeah.
Right?
It can't.
And
yeah.
so when I figured that out, I said, no, I don't think I'm overreacting. 1% damage.
Yeah.
We should make oils with health rather than shelf life in mind.
Yeah.
And then I developed that method.
And
Then
this is when you
flaxseed
come-
oil came
yeah.
out. Then flaxseed oil is poorly balanced, has too much omega-3, too little omega-6. Everybody else gets too much omega-6. I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil. And so then I made a blend where the oils are not damaged. You get both omega-3 and omega-6 undamaged. They're organic. They're in the right ratio. And we made that blend. And that blend, we've done some studies with it in athletes. When athletes do their sport to exhaustion, and then they start taking the oil, tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day mixed in foods, spread out over the course of the day, not fried ever. In 30 days, their performance to exhaustion goes up by 40 to 60%. And we've done it in a whole lot of different sports. And we thought the athletes were going to do all our marketing for us because it was so massively obvious, but they didn't do it because athletics is so competitive that if somebody finds something that gives them an edge, they keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
So we never. My goal was always a bottle in every fridge, a bottle of oil made with health in mind in every fridge. Everybody has oil. That would be $176 billion a year at wholesale just in North America.
Wow.
That's how big that market is.
Yeah. And obviously, if people, that's the problem, is if people knew that, I think they wouldn't mind paying. I mean, we pay $8 for a Starbucks coffee, so I think people would pay with health in mind. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't do the research, right? Because
the oil is more expensive than that. It's more expensive than the cheap oils that are damaged.
Sure.
But it gets you better results than Starbucks coffee does too.
Of course.
But not enough people know. And I've been working at it for a long time, but it's all small scale.
Yeah.
And, I'm still looking for somebody who can market to 8 billion people, because if you can put me in front of 8 billion people, I will tell the same story. And probably you'll sell 20 to 40% of the audience, at least of those who can afford it.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like,
and what's the name of the company, the Flax Seed?
the oil blend is called Udo's Oil.
Udo's Oil? Okay.
Even got my name on it. Yeah.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Udo, I can't believe we're at over an hour already. This flew by.
Holy shit.
Yeah, man.
Well, we can do another one whenever you want.
I'd love to. Yeah, there's so many things we could talk about, just whole health, mental health, all that. I'd love to.
Yeah. What I'm focused on now is total health based in nature and human nature, because health was invented by life.
Yeah.
And it's the result of living in line with nature and your nature.
I love it.
And then the other one I'm working on is human nature. You'd think that human beings would make human nature one of the basic topics of, study and understanding. And we've been here for 200,000 years and we've never done it.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it, and I have a really good handle on it.
I love it, man. Yeah, I definitely want to have you back on. We'll dive more on the health side. That'd be great. And then,
Yep.
so if you can, I'll leave everything in the description below. But where can people find you? You got social media, you got a website. Where can people go to
Yeah,
find you?
I'm on Facebook. I piddle on Facebook quite a bit. I'm on Instagram
Nice.
and I'm on LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube channel under Udo Erasmus. And if you go on Google and write in Udo Erasmus /podcast, some of my podcasts are on there. And I have a
Nice.
website, udoerasmus.com.
Okay.
Some of my podcasts are on there. And it's
Yeah.
a kind of a work in progress because I'm going through a transition in my work focus.
I love it. And I'm assuming they could find your social media on your website as well, all that stuff. Like your handles and your website.
I hope so. I hope so. Somebody else does that for me. I'm a tech idiot. I'm really good with molecules, and in my opinion, molecules are really high tech.
Yes.
But when it comes to the technology, I was not born with the device in my hand like you guys.
I know it's our biggest curse, no question.
It can be.
Yeah.
If it runs you instead of you running it,
That's
so you
right.
need to know who's in charge. And if you know what this is, then it's not hard to be in charge of that because this is the better experience than you even get from your device. Honestly,
Well
really, guys, it's really true. There's a better experience inside of you, and Google can get you everything except yourself.
Yes, that's right.
Right? So you got to get yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Udo's, listen, man, it's been great to learn from you, and I definitely want to have you back on. I learned a lot, and I appreciate your insight and your experience. So we'll talk soon for sure.
Love doing it.